Thank you so much. Thank you. Before I begin my talk, may I please ask you to do something? Take a look at the person beside you, in front of you, and behind you. Find someone you do not yet know and say hi. Well done, everyone. Well done. What you actually did now was a bit unusual for the country we live in, Sweden. But before I elaborate more on your special achievement, I want to take you back to the year of 2000. It was the year when I had just turned 12 years old. I'd moved from the suburbs of Stockholm to a new city. I was new in my school, and I just found a new friend. I remember her especially because she introduced me to a new kind of game. Instead of skipping ropes or playing cards, as I did with the other 12-year-old children with her, I always played a game called War. So what we used to do is that we went into our yard, we found the biggest sticks we could find, and then we would find the greatest ant colonies and kill as many as we could during a designated amount of time. Sorry, all ant lovers out there, I really apologize today. But to me, that game was a bit weird. I had grown up in a safe country in Sweden, and I didn't really understand why we played that game. But I realized years later that that game had probably been very real to her, because just a couple of years ago, she had had to flee with her family from war in Bosnia to safety in Sweden. And today, 250 million children still live in war zones. And the only thing worse than knowing how to play war is to actually live in it every single day. And in a perfect world, I guess we all can agree, no one will have to flee from their homes. No one will have to leave the life they built or the people they love. But there are those who have no other choice. My friend and her family was one of those. And last year, Sweden became the destination, 165,000 refugees that were in the same situation yet again. Among refugees, Sweden sometimes is seen as a dream destination where you can work and have a lot of the basic rights while waiting on permit. And on the yearly ranking of Migration Policy Index, Sweden do rank on the top year after year after year. So, based on that, Sweden seems like the most welcoming country on earth, right? We could tap ourselves on the shoulder and be quite happy there. But, as you two know, policies seldom tell the entire truth, and that is that we sometimes can be a real pain in the ass too, especially when asking expats. So 21,000 expats in 39 countries got to answer which country they think had best social life and easiest of making friends. Then Sweden ranked at the bottom. Also, when it comes to which country that is most easiest to become integrated in, Sweden was on the second place in the most difficult country. So it seems like it's not the policies that are making what integration looks like, but it's actually the people. So 165,000 people fled from war and came to one of the loneliest countries on earth. Also, when looking at how individualistic people are, Sweden comes as one of the most individualistic countries according to research. And also, almost over 40% of all our households consists of single adults. Well, exactly this week a year ago, Sweden had reached the top in number of refugees arriving during one single week. It was over 10,000 people. I remember the news writing, Sweden are on its knees, unable to handle the current pressure. And also, 42% of the people thought that this is not a handleable situation. 42% believe that governments and NGOs didn't do enough. So I don't know if any of you remember what happened in that situation, but actually people stepped up. So the people stepped up and offered the clothes and food and sheltering. And just in a couple of weeks, a lot of these basic needs were actually covered. In this Maslow's hierarchy of needs that we probably all learned in school one day, the first level is made of physical things like food and clothes, and the second level is made of safety. But what still remained and what still remains today is the third level to climb, which is creating a sense of belonging. Creating a sense of belonging is defined by human connection. And human connection cannot be done only by NGOs and governments. Because have you ever seen migration policies play soccer with someone or administration forms take a cup of coffee? And Google don't have the answers to all the weird questions we have out there. So this is about people and can only be done by people. And in our society, actually human connections is one of the most valuable currencies there is. Human connection enabled by a simple hi. And saying hi is becoming worth more than 1,000 words. And I asked one of my friends that moved here last autumn if he could explain how the first experience has been during his first time in Sweden. This is what he said. My first couple of months in Sweden became very affected by the extremes. The very nice elderly lady treating me with so much kindness, but also the other extreme, the racists on the beach yelling at me to go home and swim in my home country. I've been spit on while waiting for the bus. Neither of those has surprised me, because there will always be very good and very bad people doing their thing. What has surprised me, though, is all the other Swedish people. The majority that sees me but pretend they don't. People that I try to make contact with but looks away. People that have a friendly mind but remain silent anyway. And his story resonated very deeply with me, and I think it reflects something that is very true. That sometimes in the midst of great challenges, we believe that it is the extremes that can shape our society and dictates what it becomes. We look up to the Mother Teresa's to save our world, or up to the extremists to destroy it. And the rest of us are all just sometimes caught in the middle, busying ourselves with liking and sharing and twittering and doing whatever. But I think we are acting sometimes like a passive audience rather than taking part in shaping the reality. But I want to really tell you that I think we need to reclaim our role in the society, and that we need to do it big time. So a year ago, I started something called Welcome. It's a solution that can be put in every single person's hand as a force for human connection. It's like what you did 10 minutes ago. Digitally, someone reaching out their hand, waiting for someone to reply, and through that, create a magical handshake. When working with Welcome, the greatest fight has not been towards the extremes, although we have encountered them too. But the greatest fight has been towards something that is much more closer to us. The normal, the average, the lagom, the comfortability. And it often comes expressed in 4 or 5 single words called, "It's not my responsibility." So when we presented Welcome as a solution for them to use as a tool for human connection, not for anyone else, we've been yelled at as CEOs by boardrooms. We have individuals turning their backs on us. But I believe that this is something that can only be done by people. We want to make it easier for the everyday person to connect. When conducting research, we asked people how many want to be personally engaged in welcoming refugees. 50% answered yes, but only 5% of them were doing something today. So we want to create a solution for the other 45% that had perhaps seen that they didn't know how to do something. Now the solution was there. And some have been convinced, and some are yet to be. And today there are around 10,000 people, 10,000 conversations that have taken place. 10,000 voices that previously were silent, but now are saying welcome. And I don't know if ever in our time today, the need of normal people to rise up and do something has ever been so timely. Because making a country welcoming again, or including again, has never been up to one single person, not even a president, but it's up to the collective force called us when we all take our part. Well, I have the last story about Arif. He's a friend of mine. He told me that when he came to Sweden, he met a rather couple of strange volunteers that visited the refugee camps. When we were there, he told us over lunch one day that they had said to him that no Swede wants them there, and he was very surprised and very shocked by that. But later on, it came out that they weren't actually volunteers. They probably were an extremist group dressed up as volunteers. He told us in his own words later, but I wasn't worried. I wasn't afraid. I didn't believe in them because I had already met people that made me their friend. I had already met you. And that's really my wish today, that we all make our voices to sound louder and more frequently. So when people hear that they are not welcome by some, they will still know that they know that they know that they are welcome by many. And to do that, we need to leave our comfort zone and lock lagom behind our doors and just do everything we can. So I want to leave you with a question, which is, what kind of future do you want to see? Do you want to see welcoming, including future? Well, then go and grab the initiative and continue to say hi to your neighbor. Thank you.